Truth.
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 Truth. Truth. Truth.
Welcome to Trusting the Truth with Samuel Tolley, where we view the world through the lens of Jesus Christ. We do not view Jesus Christ through the lens of the world. How you doing? This is Sam Tolley with Trusting the Truth. And today I want to talk about Trump wins. I recently saw a compilation by a guy called the Supply Dude. And I want to play his compilation. I want to talk on it. It's a compilation called Election Night Media Meltdown Compilation of Donald Trump Winning. And it's by the Supply Dude. So you can go look at it without any commentary. But I'm going to give commentary on it because I think it's very interesting that the people that are supposed to give us the news are not objective. They're anything but objective. They are totally partisan, at least these individuals here, and I think they represent the vast majority of what is being disseminated upon the public these days. So let's get into it. Let him start it. We're going to watch it, and I'm going to break it throughout to give you my take on what these people are saying.
Well, I'm so proud.
Kamala Harris is a woman of color in an interracial marriage.
All right, before we start the video, this is just going to be your classic mega meltdown compilation of your favorite TV Democrats getting super upset that Donald Trump won the 2024 presidential elections. Again, sit down, relax. You're going to hear some insane things, some people crying, some people coping. Enjoy.
The rest was not great. Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this.
Let me stop right here. This Jimmy Kimmel is incredible. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of immigrants. Now, see, he doesn't want to say illegal aliens. All these folks that came here illegally that are living off the taxpayers' dime. He doesn't care because he can afford it. Now, when he's talking about women, basically, he's talking about killing babies, which they can still do. And I don't know what he means about children, but let's let him continue for a minute.
We go for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism,
for healthcare. What, Obamacare? You can have your doctor. I mean, keep your doctor if you want your doctor. That lie? Or healthcare, the jab, where they said it was safe and effective, and it was neither. Healthcare and journalists. I mean, this is what this video is about. The so-called journalists, and this guy is getting upset. I mean, he has a right to be upset, but wow, his audience must be one-sided totally.
for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on.
Oh, I got to stop again. For justice, for poor people. The Democratic Party is anything but for poor people. You know, they used to say that the Republican Party is a party of the rich, where they're the only ones that's catering to the rich. Matter of fact, they cater to the rich and to the war machine, because that keeps a lot of folks rich. But poor people have gotten poorer since Joe Biden was in office, and they were poorer when Barack Obama was in office.
Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine.
I'm sorry. This war in Ukraine, number one, Ukraine is not our ally. That's a lie. We are a member of NATO, and they're on the precipice of World War III with a country that we are not allies with. Ukraine is not and has never been our ally. Not one drop of American blood should be lost dealing with Ukraine. Excuse me.
NATO for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Cannot ignore there is still a lot of racism and gender bias in this country. And I think for us to ignore that and not try to bring that front and center so we can heal that would mean that we would end up in the same place.
Here's old Al, the gifter of gifters, the guy who interviewed Kamala Harris and got $500,000 to his National Action Network, whatever the heck that is. And he's talking about racial and gender bias. I mean, look, no one wants to admit over there that this woman was dumb. This woman wouldn't answer a question. This woman wasn't what they call presidential in the least. And this guy, well, he gets paid to keep black folks in line. And I must say, he's not doing a very good job of it these days.
Kamala Harris is a woman of color in an interracial marriage and running as a woman to be the head of state. That is something.
What can she run is if she's not a woman? And this woman of color stuff, this drives me crazy. Everybody has a color. Even white folks have a color. I have never seen a transparent human being except for when I watch the Invisible Man movies. Golly.
Thing a lot of Americans are not ready to deal with.
I'm surprised at the results, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color,
Here we go again. And this woman of color is one of the worst. This Sunny Hostin, these people, look, I need to calm down. Let's let her run her mouth some more.
I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country.
Why are they going there? This mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy. See, one of the things I don't like about these quote unquote so-called black people, or they like to say women of color in her case, but Al's supposed to be this black dude. They love to talk about you discriminating against a black person. They used to love to talk about, well, one of these NFL athletes or these basketball players, they get their money and then they go marry Miss Thang, some white woman. But now they want to flip it, saying, oh, well, she is a woman of color or a black woman that married a Jewish guy. So they want to get this racist thing. So they want to have it both ways. You're supposed to take care of black women, but at the same time, you're not, or whatever their thought process is.
And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Pointing back to 2016, sexism, I'm going to say also racism and bias had to have played a role.
Now, let me state the obvious. One person is a woman. And this now makes Trump 2 for 2 in beating out a woman to become our president.
The Democrats putting women up there. So what? Trump or whatever person is supposed to beat the other person. So now, they keep putting Trump up there to beat these women. Well, you put up Hillary, the woman that ran around there talking about she keeps hot sauce in her purse and went down to this church in I don't know, South Carolina, North Carolina, wherever, trying to talk about, I ain't nowhere it's tired. I done come too far for him to leave me here. And then you get Kamala, who's talking about she cooked so many greens, she had to cook them wash them in the bathtub. Now, I don't know if she was washing them in the bathtub while she was in the tub or she was outside of the tub. But I've never heard of any woman washing greens in a bathtub. The same woman that said folks in the rural part of America can't get to a Kinko's. Same woman that says in order for us to fix this problem that we have with immigration is to give them 10 to 20 million folks that the border czar, and Joe led across the border a pathway to citizenship. These folks expect us to obey the law, but they broke it because they're trying to fill the Democrat Party with a bunch of voters. That's what's going on. They want to, they use taxpayer money. They brought over like 500,000 criminals, 13 million something folks, 1,000 people convicted of murder and 15,000 sexual deviants that they know they let in the country. But we, the normal tax-paying, law-abiding citizens of the United States, are supposed to sit here and take that crap. And what are these Democrat pundits, these shills for the Democrat Party are saying? They weren't paid. America is just too racist. America is just too sexist. They're not even talking about the stuff that was really going on.
We just ask this simply. It could be tough to answer. Is this country not ready for a woman to become president?
If she were a 6'4" white man from Arkansas or from Florida, and she ran a good middle of the road campaign talking about reaching out, do you think she would be losing by that much? If she could like chew tobacco and carry a shotgun and talk about football and be a guy's guy, I mean, you tell me.
There are chew tobacco and carry a shotgun and say a guy's guy. So a guy's guy got to chew tobacco? I don't use tobacco products, and there's many people that don't use tobacco products. So you're trying to say that the vast majority of Americans, or more than 50% of Americans, just guys that chew tobacco and they 6 foot tall, 6'4" white people? Oh, I'm sorry. This is Joe before he went to Mar-a-Lago and is trying to get into a relationship with Trump again, while his ratings are down like 50-something%, while he's concerned that MSNBC is getting ready to be sold and he don't know if he'll have a job. This is him before that realization came to him, and he's still talking that same nonsense. Well, he talks a little bit different these days.
The levels of sexism and racism that clearly a lot of people in this country are willing to tolerate.
Let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country. And anybody who thinks that that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong. I'm not saying that was the main reason that Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump won.
I think that we've got to be honest. Among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny. And I think that we've got to deal with the reality that he appealed to this whole false macho thing that some black men and some Latino men went for.
No, Al, no. We ain't appealing to no false machoism. We just don't appeal to wokeism. We don't appeal to, like when Joe came into office and he's talking about having these women flight suits for pregnant women to fight fighter planes. We're not into the LGBTQ, like this bald-headed suitcase stealing freak that they used to have working for the energy department, or this man that's dressed up like a woman in charge of health care. No, that's what we're against, Joe. I mean, Al. We're against black folks like you that sit over here and constantly tell black folks that, like you just said, we're misogynists, and we're against women and people of color and all this other nonsense, even though I am a person of color, as you call it. I'm just a black man in my own mind. We're not for all this mixing up people, putting them in different little groups. We are for America, the United States of America as a whole. This is supposed to be a melting pot, and we melt into one, not in these little fixed groups that you guys outline. And folks like you to get paid constantly and never talk about the stuff that was really going on. I don't see you talking about them folks in Chicago that's suffering because all them illegals were over there sucking up all the resources, or all them folks in New York, where you were at, by the way, sucking up all the resources. I don't hear you talking about that stuff. I don't hear you talking about the thousands of Americans living on the sidewalks. I remember when I was in LA, you couldn't even walk down certain streets because of the tents and the cardboard boxes where Americans is living in. And yet you're completely silent when Joe and Kamala's flying in thousands of people from various countries to come here. It's not just a bunch of illegals from Mexico and Guatemala and south of the border coming here. How the heck can folk from the Congo, Siberia, China, and all these folks get here? They can't walk here. No, we're not for all that nonsense. We're not for using taxpayer money, screwing us around, and then telling us the economy is great when we got to go to the store. But folks like you got enough money, you ain't got to worry about it. No.
How would you explain that to a 14-year-old today? How would you explain this election?
I'll try not to think about my boys, because.
Yes.
But I think you would say that, amazing things have been done through the American political system. People have been given freedoms that they were denied, and glorious opportunities in this country that you can't get anywhere else. And then awful things have happened in the American system. And you have to fight to make sure that you're doing the good part and not the bad part. They can get on basically one of two buses that are going to take them to a destination they think is meaningful. And you get on the bus, and there are a whole bunch of the people on the bus who just want to be seen and have opportunity in American life. And then there are other people on the bus engaged in the same journey who are there absolutely just for themselves, to get power, to give themselves just more riches and more control over things. And
We have now let misinformation become.
That guy he's from CBS News. He sounded like he was describing the Democrat Party that's getting kicked out of there versus folks that are trying to make it. That's what it sounded like. I don't think that's what we're supposed to be coming across. But let's continue.
We accepted information. It is washed over us. Elon Musk, he buys Twitter, and then he uses it almost exclusively to be a propaganda machine, and we've accepted it.
This woman, see, it's people like this that keep the uninformed, those that don't pay attention or get their media information from other sources, know what's going on. Now, she's saying Musk got Twitter and made it into a propaganda machine. She will not tell you that during the 2020 election cycle in October, before the election, when the Hunter Biden laptop story came out, that Twitter, under its previous ownership, along with Facebook and Google and everybody else, silenced us from hearing the truth. And then the FBI even came out and said stupid stuff. Everybody covered it up. The 51 so-called intelligence professionals, retired folks, lied like a dog, saying it looked like Russian misinformation. When that stuff came from Hillary Clinton, this woman and all these other media whores, they won't tell you that stuff. Just like they'll never mention the fact that dossier that for 2.5 years that they hung around Trump's neck, saying that he was part of Russia collusion and Russia got him in the office, was a fabrication created by the Clinton people and perpetrated on him and the American people, $40 million in 2.5 years, and nobody apologized for anything. And they go ahead like nothing ever happened. They go on to the next thing like nothing ever happened. And then they'll get over here and talk about after this election when they thought this woman that would never answer a question, this woman that was for legalizing these millions of illegals that she led over here, this woman that doesn't really gives a rat's behind about the average hardworking American citizen who says she's going to fix the economy if she gets elected. This woman who's a campaign, they say spent $1.5 billion and now there's $20 million in the hole. How? Just think what she would have did to the American taxpayer money if she got a hold of that. But people like this, they don't want to talk about that. They want to sit over here and tell us how stupid we are for electing somebody that they don't approve of.
We've accepted a narrative that despite an actually great economic recovery, the vibes don't feel good. So we want to reject it and get something else. And now
let me ask you something. Do you feel that you're in the midst of a great economic recovery? And you have to ask yourself this question. Why does the economy need to be recovered? After all, for 4 years, the adults have been in charge. I mean, it's stupid. And it's common sense if you just think about what's going on with these people.
We are now betting on to change all of it is Donald Trump, a man who did two almost impossible things. He won the American presidency twice, and he drove a casino into the ground.
Hit job. He won the American presidency twice, and he drove a casino into the ground. What does whatever happen with a casino that he was involved in got to do with the presidency? What kind of action or did he do as a president? Did he run the United States into the ground? Why does she even have to go there? She ain't talking about what kind of president he was. She could easily sit over here and say, what did he do when he was president for those 4 years? How was the economy during those 4 years? She don't want to talk about that because it was the greatest economy in her lifetime up until that pandemic came in. This is how you understand these people are monsters with a straight face, lying whores. I call them prostitutes because they get paid to pimp you. But she didn't even talk about that. None of them talk about that. None of them ever talk about what the economy was like under Trump. They want you to believe that this economy under Joe is great. We just are too stupid to realize it.
What will the future hold now that America has just decided that we're going to F around and find out?
My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will.
I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was America makes a perilous choice. I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have.
Let me stop this woman. It takes a lot for me to listen to her. But going back to Joy, number one, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic. The Democrats never talk about that. The Democrats never talk about the necessity to know the Constitution. They never talk about the necessity to teach children how our government works. I don't know what this woman's talking about. She's worrying about her daughter. You know, I think she's trying to imply, oh, my daughter won't be able to rip babies out of her womb. Yes, you can. You know, there's no law in New York where she's at preventing that. The only thing that Trump did was took it away from the federal government and put it to the states as far as the Roe v. Wade thing. The states where the people can vote directly and petition their representatives whether they want to kill babies or not. You know, Joy's talking about we're in a democracy. We're, like I said, we're in a constitutional republic, a representative government. We hire people as our representatives to go to Washington from the federal position and represent us. People need to understand how government works. You know, like I said, these people, you know, they act like Trump was never president before. They don't want to talk about that. They ignore that. They act like it never happened. They were running around saying, oh, he's Hitler. He's going to be a dictator. He's a Mussolini. He's going to put you in concentration camps. He's going to lock you up, all kinds of crap. Stuff he never even thought about doing before. And the fact of it is they act like we are so stupid that we don't have any memory or understanding, or that we don't understand that there's three branches of government. They use fear tactics. They use all this stuff. And then it didn't work. and they're pissed off because this woman who wouldn't answer a question to save her life, or maybe couldn't answer a question, is not running anymore, and she's not going to be in charge. And I am very thankful for that.
You feel what you feel. Everyone has different emotions. Some people got what they wanted. A lot of people didn't. And you feel anything that comes up, and then you turn around and you say, let's look at the tapes. Let's see what we did. Let's see how we continue to fight for the people that we care about. And you take one step in front of the other. And so here we are today, and I still feel that optimistic because I feel arm in arm with so many people who agree with me. And I'm not going to stop marching.
Tens of millions of Americans, our friends, our neighbors, our family members, voted for Donald Trump. We disagree with him. I know we all do at this table, but they are good, decent people who are patriots and love this country.
Can always say, oh, she should have done this, she should have done this, She did what she did. She was everywhere. She talked to everybody. And people didn't come out. I don't know why. And it doesn't even matter.
The woman didn't talk to no. Yeah, she talked, but she didn't say nothing. You ever heard of that James Brown? Yeah, I know you heard of Whoopi. Talking loud and saying nothing. That's what she was doing. Talking loud and saying nothing. You had her on the show. The next president of the United States, Kamala Harris. And what did she do? She sat down there and Sunny Hostin asked her, is there anything you would have done differently? Nothing comes to mind. Well, there you go. There you go. On your show, she exposed exactly who she was. She showed the whole world that she was nothing. She had nothing and wouldn't have did anything different. You know, nothing comes to mind that she would do different than Joe. She was the border czar. All the millions of people came in, although she waited till the end of the term almost before she even went to the border. Remember when she saw Lester Holt a long time ago? He said, well, we've been to the border. He said, you never been to the border. Well, I haven't been there in Europe either. Ha, 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 ha. Or when she was out there, I think it was in Poland, when she was in Europe. And I think it was Poland, when she was talking to, standing on a podium next to the president or premier of that country, or whatever country it was. And someone, well, a friend in need is a friend indeed. I mean, stupid stuff. This woman is not smart. And you people think that she could stand up to Putin or any of these other leaders? Do you think that this woman would instill fear in folks? No. She would keep on with the same stupid woke agenda that has got our military so they can't even recruit, because nobody wants to serve under folks like that. Nobody wants to serve under a leader that's going to sit over there and have drag queens on ships with men. No real man wants to be around that kind of nonsense. But see, real man will follow a leader that will lead. A leader that after he got shot jumps up and says, fight, fight, fight. That's a leader. Men follow men. You need to get that straight off the top. And men will follow a real man every day because they know that real man is going to stand up for them. And this mess that these people talking about, they're worried about Social Security. Have they forgot that Trump says no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime? Do you know that for us seniors, what that does? If we decide that we want to get us a little part-time job, we can get it without worrying about getting over our tax bracket. Because before, we would have to analyze any additional money we make in conjunction with our Social Security benefits, the money that we already earn. Did you hear what Elon Musk said? That folks that have got to the point of Social Security, they already paid enough taxes. They shouldn't have to pay anymore. But you people act like you care about us when you don't. You just say all this stuff. Like I said, you don't talk about them folk, them American citizens that's laying in the streets every night. Many of them are veterans trying to get along. You talk about the stupid stuff and you try to sidestep those things that affect the folks on the ground. And you guys don't want to come to the realization that you've been screwing over the American people because it doesn't hurt you. Let's see what else we got.
He's now the president. I'm still not going to say his name.
It is a moment to listen to the voters. And this, I have to say, I've always thought he could win. I thought in the final stretch she might eke it out. I didn't expect it to be this resounding, and I think there are some lessons from it. I think we forget about rural America. I think the working class feels left behind. They feel like the powerful, the elite only care about them and their power. And he spoke to them. We may not have liked his words, but they turned out for him.
I think I'm okay.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of her. I don't think people realize how hard it is to get to where she was. For her to be selected as vice president after what I think she would tell you was a very disappointing presidential race, where I think she kind of lost her footing and was listening too much to consultants, frankly, and it didn't really exude who she was. And then to be vice president and to step into the most difficult situation in the world, where she had to be completely loyal to Joe Biden and respectful of the fact that he had chosen her, but yet maneuver in a situation. I mean, such political skill. It is just inspiring. People who don't
she's about to make me puke. Number one, see, let's revisit this again. How Kamala got to where she was running. The Democrats really never had a real primary this whole election season. They were shooing it in for Joe. They were hoping, this is what I believe. I was believing they were hoping Joe can get them across the finish line and then possibly kick him out of there and then install Kamala. Then they could say, we got the first female president. They was hoping that they can do the same magic, I believe, with Joe that happened in 2020 when he got the 81 million votes, which I do not believe to this day that are legitimate. If they were legitimate, how come Kamala didn't get at least 80 million? So anyway, I believe that that's what they were hoping for. But Joe is sitting over here, he's like a corpse. And I'm not trying to be funny or nasty, but the man is not there. The man has not been there. But we had all these pundits, all these folks lying, saying he's sharp as a tack. He's there all the time. He's on top of everything. But it got to the point where even they recognized that he was not there no more. So I believe they set him up. The June debate between him and Trump was the earliest debate they've ever had for a presidential election, to my knowledge. And they set him up perfectly. Why or how? Because they put him in one podium, Trump in another podium, and they didn't help him this time. They helped him in 2020. So they didn't help him. They gave the questions, and they just let him be him. And it showed. It showed so bad that they had to get rid of him. And I believe that was the intention all along. Now, having said that, there were some Democrats that wanted an open convention. They wanted to have some kind of mini convention or whatever the thing was, so the best candidate could come through. But then you had this other facet that we have to have this woman of color. And part of that facet was, well, this is the vice president, and she's already a woman of color. Excuse me. So we got to go with her. So in essence, the people never got a chance to choose anybody. They didn't get any chance. They didn't have a chance to choose anybody to run against Joe, because even though they had a couple of little so-called primaries, they weren't real. They never let a real candidate get up there. And then once they kicked Joe out, Joe got to go. They let him know unequivocally that he has to go because they knew he was going to lose. They decided just to enshrine Kamala. Put her in there. The woman that never won a primary when she was running before. Never won anything, as far as the presidential race. I don't know how well California, she got to be attorney general. California is sick, but that's another story. We don't even have the time to talk about that. So anyway, the Democrat Party just said, okay, we're going with Kamala. And I'm watching my Democrat friends, yeah. And then people got angry with me. Or you're going to try to stop us from electing the first black woman or a woman of color, the first woman to be president? I even saw this guy on the news on one show, or not a news, but a podcast. And they were at what do you call that thing? They were at a barber shop, and they were talking to all these men. And this guy said, essentially, he just wanted to be a part of history. He wanted to vote for her because it'd be the first woman. And my thought was like, wow. He doesn't even give a rat's butt what happens to the country. It was just like the Obama thing. I just wanted to get the first black man. I had a friend that cried when Obama was running. He said, I never thought I'd live to see a black man as president. Now, I like a black man, but it's fine. But that's not my priority. My priority is the best person to run the country. I mean, if 2 o'clock at night, if some black man come knocking on my door, ask me, could I get in? Because he's black, hell no, he ain't getting in my house. I don't know him. So why would I vote for somebody just because of pigmentation? And as far as this woman McCaskill, or whatever the hell her name is, crying and carrying on, talking about what Kamala had to go through, I'll tell you, I know one woman that I can see potentially voting for in the future, and that's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I remember when she called hell as press secretary, and they was putting her through the fire. She was handling, and then she took her family out to dinner in a local restaurant, and I think it was Virginia or whatever, and they threw her and her family out because she was the press secretary of Trump. And you know what? She was just gracious and got up and left. Place is out of business now. Good for them. What did she do? She just went on about her business and became governor of Arkansas. And if I'm not mistaken, she done made a law in Arkansas where the Chinese can't get one blade of grass, farmland out of there. So she's running Arkansas real great. So it's not that we got a thing against a woman. It's just if it's going to be a woman, she got to be right, she's got to be tough, and she's got to be able to stand. Kamala's none of those things.
Understand what she had to do to get to this moment. And so I'm just very proud of her.
But in the end, if they didn't make their numbers and essentially exceed the numbers that Joe Biden had in the suburbs, and I think we have to be blunt about why. Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state, is that if you can't flip enough white women, and we've talked about this on this set numerous times, but it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to
Wait a minute. Okay, let it go a little further.
Get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that.
Okay. This is one of the most difficult people for me to watch. I mean, for a long time, this Joy Reid was running around here with a blonde wig. I guess now she just dye her hair. This woman always talking about black people. And black people this and black people that. And she's running around here, to me, looking like a burnt matchstick with that blonde wig on and her dark skin. Just be who you are, Joy. You a black woman, be a black woman. Let your hair be the right color it is. If it won't grow, it won't grow. Or if you want to wear a wig, fine, I don't care. But when you come out with all this nonsense, like she was all mad at black women when they were talking about, oh, black men, they're not going to vote for Kamala. I don't understand it. And then when Kamala came out with her thing for black men, we're going to get you guys marijuana legalized. And we're going to get this loan so you can start a small business. Joy gets on TV and I'm watching it talk about good for these black men, something to the effect that, they stood up for what they wanted and they got the issue or something like that. I mean, I'm thinking about, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? She got excited because this other woman, was offering us, okay, you know what? We want to get you high. I know all you black men like to get high, so we're going to try to legalize marijuana and then make this thing where you can get so many loans. Now, number one, this she had to clarify, well, we can't make this just for black men. It has to be for everybody. Well, we know that, but the idea that you're going to denigrate us, that, we're going to give black men something so they can get high. It's so insulting. It reminds me of during the pandemic. They closed down the churches. They closed down the schools. They closed down the libraries. They closed down places where people can think and get together intellectually. They closed down even visiting with families. But they didn't close down the liquor stores. They didn't close down many of the strip clubs. They didn't close down the places where you can buy marijuana. Why is that? I believe the reason is if you can keep people anesthetized, you can keep them from seeing what you're doing. If you can satisfy their basic animal instincts, and I think that's what they think about us black folks and men especially, you can put stuff over them and they'll never see it coming. Well, I don't like to be anesthetized. I like to have a clear head, a clear mind. I like to be able to watch everything and everybody. I like to know what's going on. And I don't want to be deceived, fooled, or portrayed or played on by anybody. Especially somebody like Joy Reid, who is about as phony, in my opinion, as they come.
Message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy.
I mean, a lot of folks are wondering, why would Latinos vote for Donald Trump if that means he might deport Abuela? He might deport members of their household. As you know, lots of Latino families in this country are of mixed status. And, a lot of folks are asking on the Democratic side, why would they do this to themselves? Do you want?
See, this joker here, this is another one of these prostitutes. They always try to pull the emotional heartstrings. Screw the law. Screw what's best for America. Screw what's best for Americans. Let's pull the heartstrings of some people. Well, Jim Acosta, I believe that's his name. There are many Latinos or people of Latino heritage that are American citizens that have lived here all their life, or those who came to the United States legally. A word that you people love to avoid unless you're talking about locking up Donald Trump. And these people that came to America legally went through the process, went through the line, went through the waiting, and they see millions of people coming across here, getting billions of dollars of our their taxpayer money, and being put up with hotels and all this other stuff. They don't like it no more than we do. But people like you and your gated communities and your high salaries and, the pimps that you work for so you can prostitute us, they don't care. You don't care. Just a joker.
See mass deportations.
So the first thing that we need to do is close the border. More than 10 million people illegally entered the country. They have to be deportation. So there is no other way around. They have to be deportation. They have to be
deportation
we
camps.
have to respect the laws.
I'm
not saying deportation camps.
Do you want to see people in camps rounded up and put in camps?
Isn't that
people in camps rounded up and put in camps? Just ring it out, separating families. No, let's take them into your house, Jim. You and your administration and the Democrats invited these folks here illegally. If the Congress would have did their job And the judicial system would have did their job. They could have shut that mess down right away. And if the Democrat people, and the Democrat Party would have started standing up and yelling at you guys, maybe you'd have stopped, but you didn't. But this election, you got caught on the carpet. Why do you think everybody voted Trump? That voted Trump? They don't want this crap.
What you voted for? Isn't that what you voted for?
They are in camps now. More than 300,000 children are missing, so they're in camps now.
Lulu, one of the things that I think we need to talk about.
Yeah. Notice what he don't want to talk about. I believe the count was like 325,000 children that came across the border are unaccounted for. No one knows where they are. 325,000 children. I'm not talking about people that snuck across the border that didn't get processed. I'm talking about people that got processed through Border Patrol. Came across the border, got processed, and no one knows where they are. The government doesn't know where they are. Sex trafficking, the fodder of pedophiles, or human slavery. Yes, I'm talking about the United States of America, sex trafficking and human slavery. How come you think we don't know anything about the Epstein clientele yet? Or who knows what was going on with Diddy now? Or anybody else out there? I mean, the Department of Justice, I should call it the Department of Injustice, and the FBI, how come they weren't on top of this? How come the news media, Jim McCullough and other people, they don't want to talk about the 300,000 children that are missing? It's like it's a non-issue. Let's just talk about the stuff that gets people angry and morph you to talk on their terms. Screw the reality.
Is whether or not, folks just had the wool pulled over their eyes. And maybe they were voting on economic issues, but at the end of the day, maybe voting against their own self-interest.
Voting against your own self-interest. Well, people voting against their own self-interest. To show you how delusional these people are. How delusional this news media is, or how the psyops that they're using on the average non-thinking American is. Look, I have to go to the store and buy stuff. I've been buying stuff for many years. I bought stuff all through in the Trump administration. I remember my gas, and I live in Arizona, was less than $2 a gallon. It's not anymore. It got up to $4 something. It went down some, but it's still over $1 more than what I was paying. Eggs is through the roof. Food in general is extra higher. So economically speaking, I've suffered during the adults being in charge with Biden, let alone the massive amount of illegals that have crossed the border. And this guy, this news reporter, this person who is supposed to be an individual that is an unbiased referee that is supposed to tell the American people, look, this is what's going on in the government, and this is what they're doing, and this is how it's affecting you. It's not doing that. But he's sitting over there being a pundit for the wrong. He's not being a referee. He's representing that ledger. And that's why people like CNN, or companies like CNN and MSNBC, are in the toilet. But all of them, you have to pay attention to all these news medias, even Fox. You have to pay attention because there's a lot of undercurrent activity going on that isn't for the benefit of the American people. The American people need to be wise. They need to be smart. They need to be sharp. And many of us are. That's why we reelected Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there's many of us that are afraid because we bought so much of the propaganda. that Trump is going to destroy the nation, that he's going to be a Hitler, that he's going to be a dictator, that he's going to lock up people. Well, it was the Democrats and Joe Biden that locked up people. When they say the January the 6th, the insurrection, notice no one was ever charged for insurrection. Not a single person. But the news media used that term. And there was a lot of things going on in that January the 6th thing that the news media never showed you. Like many of these police officers ushering people to come on in. Like Trump offered 10,000 National Guardsmen, but Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of D.C. said no. Like, I understand that certain kind of devices were thrown in the crowd to rile folks up. Like there was a guy, I can't think of his name right now, that for 2 or 3 days before that thing was telling people, we got to go to the Capitol, we got to go to the Capitol. There was a lot of stuff that happened that helped instigate what happened. But the media won't talk about that. They want you to think that Trump had a mob go over there to attack and destroy the Capitol, wanted to overturn the government. And now there are people been rotting in jail for years over stupid stuff. This country was on the precipice, I believe, of being destroyed. They wanted to stack the Supreme Court with a bunch of liberal judges instead of it being 9. Make it 13 or 19 or whatever. They want to do a lot of things that are no good for the American people. And I thank the Lord that we have this opportunity to straighten stuff out. The American people need to start paying attention. You need to understand civics. You need to understand your Constitution. You need to understand your rights. You need to understand your politics locally. Within your city, within your county, within your state, and then deal with the politics on the national level. If we don't get involved with Board of Education and get the woke mess out of our schools, if we don't get involved with our county supervisors and get the woke mess out of our county and deal with our state and stuff, what good is it for us to try to get involved with the federal government? We need to pay attention. We need to start thinking like Americans, unified, particularly those of us that are God-fearing people. We need to vote biblical values, and I thank God that many folks did. And God honored that vote. Now we, as citizens, and those of us that are believers, Christians that I'm talking about specifically, need to step up and start shining our light. Be as wise as serpents and gentle as doves. But don't be naive, don't be stupid, and try to educate those that are willing to be educated and help those that have been traumatized, hypnotized, and just locked up in the Democrat plantation. There is freedom. There's freedom in Christ. Donald Trump is not our savior. Jesus Christ is. Donald Trump is the man running the government at this point in time. He needs our prayer. He needs our support. But we only look for one Lord. And we always stand behind him. This is Sam Tolley.